Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bedtime Stories. Today's bedtime stories are going to be all about Thomas the Tank Engine. Do I have any Thomas fans out there? Both of my boys loved Thomas when they were little, so I know there's lots of Thomas fans out there. Our first story is The Day of the Diesel. All right, here we go. It was a beautiful day on the island of Sodor. The sun shone brightly. Thomas and Percy were enjoying a ride in the country. Their steam floated fluffy and white into the cloudless sky. But as they chuffed around a corner, Thomas and Percy gasped. There was black smoke on the horizon. They raced to find out what was the matter. Can you see that smoke up in the sky? That doesn't look good. Bells rang, sirens whined. Oh my goodness, look! An old farmhouse was ablaze. Flames flickered and flashed into the sky. Eager to help, Thomas and Percy led firefighters and farmhands take buckets of water from their tanks. "We must put out this fire," said Sir Topham Hatt. "We'll do our best," peeped Thomas. But the fire rose higher and higher, and the engines were nearly out of water. Suddenly, a new engine named Belle arrived. She was big and blue, and her brass bell banged and clanged. "Buffer up, Belle," shouted Sir Topham Hatt. "We need your water." Water shot from two spouts high on Belle's water tanks. The flames fizzled and crackled and went out. She saved the day. Belle was low on water, so Thomas and Percy had to help her to the Steamworks. Victor and Kevin gave Belle special care because she was a hero. "I've never seen a blue fire engine before," Kevin said. "That's because I'm not a real fire engine," Belle peeped. "You are a really useful engine, Belle," said Sir Topham Hatt. "But we need a real fire engine." Belle had an idea. "Sir, you need Flynn the fire engine. He's fast and fearless. He's a real hero." Thomas and Percy gasped. Victor wheeshed and Kevin wobbled. "Quite right, Belle," Sir Topham Hatt agreed. "Flynn will come to Sodor. He will be our fire engine." The next day, Thomas took Belle on a tour of the island of Sodor. First, they visited Brendam Docks. Even rusty old Cranky liked Belle. Later, they visited Knotford Station and Thomas's branch line. It was a wonderful day, and Belle was very impressed with everything that she saw. Percy watched Thomas and Belle roll back to the Steamworks. He wondered why they hadn't invited him to join them on the tour. Suddenly, Diesel slid up next to him. "Thomas is very busy with that new blue engine," Diesel hissed. Percy's firebox fizzled. "I guess he is." Belle rolled up and introduced herself to Diesel. "Do the Diesels have a place as grand as the Steamworks?" "Our Dieselworks is not like this at all," Diesel said. "I'd love to visit," Belle puffed. Then Thomas arrived. His rods were rattling. "Steamies don't go to the Dieselworks. It's dark and dirty, and diesels can be devious." Diesel snorted goodbye and slipped away. The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt gave Percy a very special job. "Flynn, the fire engine, will arrive soon, Percy. This is his hose. Please deliver it safely to the Sodor Search and Rescue Center." Percy puffed away proudly. Look at him go. At the edge of the docks, Diesel oiled up next to him. "I told my friend Diesel 10 about you, Percy. He'd like you to visit the Dieselworks. You'd be his special guest." "Are you sure, Diesel?" Percy peeped. Diesel smiled. "I'm very sure, Percy." Percy wasn't sure that he should go to the Dieselworks. Thomas always said steamies shouldn't puff there, but Thomas didn't seem to care about Percy these days. Percy wanted friends who had time for him. He wanted to be a special visitor. So wheel turn by wheel turn, Percy puffed to the Dieselworks. It glowed a fiery red in the distance, and his axles tingled. Uh-oh. Diesel 10 met Percy at the door of the Dieselworks. "Hello, Percy," he boomed. "What an honor. Please come in." The Dieselworks was grimy and filled with clanking furnaces. There were engines Percy knew like Salty and Mavis, but he met new engines too. Den and Dart ran the Dieselworks and fixed the diesels. Percy wanted him to like him, so he told a joke. "What do you call a train that has a cold?" No one knew. And a choo-choo train, Percy peeped. All the Diesels laughed. Percy was happy that they liked him, but it was getting late. I'd love to stay, but I must puff on, Percy said. I'm supposed to deliver the hose for the new fire engine to the Sodor Search and Rescue Center. Dart can take care of that for you, Diesel 10 hissed. Dart uncoupled Percy's flatbed and took it away. All the Diesels were being so nice. Percy didn't think it was fair that they should stay in such dirty, dingy places. You should tell Sir Topham Hatt that you need a new Dieselworks, he puffed. He doesn't listen to Diesels, only Steamies, said Diesel 10. Suddenly an idea flew into Percy's funnel. I can ask Thomas to tell Sir Topham Hatt. He always listens to Thomas. Diesel 10 smiled. Percy went looking for Thomas. He found him at the Steamworks with Flynn, the fire engine. Flynn was bright and red, and everyone was very impressed, especially Thomas. Before Percy could tell Thomas about the Dieselworks, Thomas chugged off to show Flynn around Sodor. He didn't even notice Percy. Percy's boiler bubbled. He felt very unimportant indeed. The next morning, Percy went back to the Steamworks. Only Kevin was there, but he was excited to hear all about the Dieselworks. They don't even have a crane, Percy peeped. Victor always says you can't fix an engine without a crane, Kevin said. Kevin, if you went there, you'd be a hero, Percy puffed. They need you. Kevin liked the idea of being a hero very much. Suddenly, Thomas whooshed in. Percy, I've been looking for you. Flynn's hose is missing. It must be at the Search and Rescue Center, Percy said. A friend delivered it for me. Percy wanted Thomas to ask him who his friend was, but he didn't. Thomas told Percy to find the hose and then steamed away. Percy searched and searched until nighttime, but he didn't find the hose. He was starting to worry, but then Percy saw something that really troubled him. Flynn was in his berth at Tidsmouth Sheds. Percy decided not to stay where he wasn't wanted. Percy found Kevin, and together they went to the Dieselworks. The Diesels were very happy to see them. Percy and Kevin stayed at the Dieselworks all night, something no Steamy had ever done before. The next morning, Percy told the Steamies where he'd been all night. Everyone was amazed. Toby gasped. Thomas's firebox fizzled. Victor was angry that Kevin was still at the Dieselworks. I need Kevin here, Victor raged, then rattled off to tell Sir Topham Hatt. Percy was excited that everyone was finally listening to him. Percy took Thomas to the Dieselworks. Percy was certain that once Thomas saw how dirty and grimy it was, he'd talk to Sir Topham Hatt about the Diesel's troubles. But Diesel 10 had other plans. Since Victor's not at the Steamworks, we're going to take it over, and we want you to lead us, Percy. You will be our hero. Percy felt grander than Gordon and more special than Spencer. He and the Diesels rolled away, leaving a very angry Thomas behind. Oh, boy. Percy proudly puffed ahead of the Diesels, but when they reached the Steamworks, nobody listened to him. Out of my way, you silly Steamy, Diesel 10 roared. The Steamworks is ours now, and we're not giving it back. The Diesels roared and raced. They twirled on the turntable and biffed into buffers. And worst of all, Diesel 10 said Thomas was their prisoner at the Dieselworks. Percy knew he'd made a horrible mistake. Thomas was truly his best friend. He had to help him. Percy raced to the Dieselworks and screeched to a stop. Sparks flew up from his wheels and fell on a pile of oily paper. Thomas was nowhere to be found. The papers burst into flame, and the flames spread across the Dieselworks. Oh, my goodness. Now Percy had to put out a fire, too. Percy raced to the Search and Rescue Center. Fiery Flynn was ready to race to the rescue, but he didn't have his hose. Of course, Dart didn't deliver the hose, Percy wheezed. I've been such a silly Steamy. The hose must still be at the Dieselworks. With pistons pumping and bells clanging, Percy and Flynn raced. Back at the Dieselworks, smoke swirled in the sky. Percy found Den and Dart in an old shed out back, and they were blocking Thomas in. Diesel 10 had told them not to let Thomas go, but they knew they had to help fight the fire. Den and Dart released Thomas, and then Dart showed Percy where he'd hidden Flynn's hose behind an old shed. Stay calm, Flynn thundered. There's no cause for alarm. Belle and Flynn faced the fire, and the water flowed fast. The flames hissed and fizzled, and smoke whirled and twirled. Hooray for Flynn, Thomas peeped. Hooray for Belle, peeped Percy. The flames grew smaller and smaller and slowly faded away. The Dieselworks was saved, and now it was time to save the Steamworks. Thomas and Percy knew that their friends were the strongest when they stick together. As they rode to the Steamworks, they collected their friends, Belle, Edward, Henry, Gordon, James, Toby, and Emily. What the Diesels have done is wrong, they shouted. Their trickery must end. The Diesels were surprised to see the Steamies, but they refused to leave the Steamworks. Taking things and using trickery is wrong, Thomas peeped. We can help you get a new Dieselworks, but you have to be fair with us, and we promise not to trick you. Suddenly, Sir Topham Hatt entered the Steamworks. He was very, very cross. Diesel 10, he said sternly, you are an engine on my railway. You have caused confusion and delay. Because of you, none of my engines have been really useful. Diesel 10 whimpered and winced. His claw crumpled. Thomas explained why Diesel 10 had been so bad. Of course the Diesels will have a new Dieselworks, said Sir Topham Hatt. That was always my plan. Everything takes time, though, and everyone must wait their turn. The Diesels and the Steamies worked together to build the new Dieselworks. Thomas and Percy were happy to work side by side. Sir Topham Hatt gave Diesel 10 some extra work to do. No engine on my railway behaves as badly as you did, says Sir Topham Hatt. You will put right everything you damaged at the Steamworks, and Kevin will be your boss. At last, the new Dieselworks was finished. Everyone came together for the grand opening. The new Dieselworks is special because it shows what can happen when all kinds of really useful engines work together, said Sir Topham Hatt. You are all very special engines, said Sir Topham Hatt. I'm proud of you. Percy said he was proudest when he was with Thomas. That's exactly how I feel when I'm with you, Thomas peeped. The two best friends giggled and jiggled and puffed with joy. The end. See, it doesn't pay to be devious and tricky. Okay, do you want to hear another Thomas story? This one is called Thomas and the Buzzy Bees. Bzz. Which Thomas character is your favorite? I like James, the red engine. Do you guys like James? I mean, Thomas is awesome, of course, but I do like James. And I like Clara and Annabelle, too. Do you like them? Okay, let's see what happens with Thomas and the Buzzy Bees. Thomas has a special job. He will carry a load of beehives. Hero tells Thomas to go slow. The bees need rest. Thomas puffs past fields of flowers. He thinks the bees will like the flowers. Thomas hears buzzing. Oh, the bees are leaving their hives. They fly to the flowers. Thomas needs the bees to come back. Oh no. Thomas picks up a new load. Oh boy. The trucks are full of flowers and the bees fly back to Thomas. Thank goodness, huh? The bees fly all around Thomas, and now, look at that, they're too close. Uh-oh. Thomas leaves all the trucks behind, and he rolls away from the bees. Thomas meets Hero on the track, and Hero is looking for the flowers and the bees. Thomas knows he didn't do his job. Nope. Thomas picks up the flowers, and he picks up the hives, and the bees follow. Thomas puffs along a shady track. The bees feel cool, and they fly back into the beehives. That's good, huh? The Buzzy Bees are home on the farm at last. The end. I don't think I'd want to take a whole load of bees anywhere, would you? Oh, I'd be so scared that I would get stung. Whew. Okay. I have one more Thomas story for you if you'd like to hear it. This is called Thomas Lost at Sea. Oh, this looks like a little bit scary. This looks like it's going to be a very stressful and dangerous story. Let's see. It was a beautiful day on the island of Sodor, and Thomas was very busy. A new search and rescue center was being built, and there was a lot of work to do. The rescue center would be a place to help people in trouble. Plus, Harold the helicopter would have a new landing pad, Captain would get a dock, and Rocky would finally get his own shed. The search and rescue center will be made of the strongest wood of all, Joby wood, said Sir Topham Hatt. It will arrive at Brendam Docks. Diesel wanted to show off and move all the Joby wood by himself, but when he did, the flatbeds holding the wood skipped off the track, oh no, and fell over a steep cliff. Thomas saved Diesel, but all the wood splashed into the ocean below. As a reward, Thomas was given the job of going to the mainland to get more Joby wood, but the next day the dock manager told him there was no room on the steamboat, and then Thomas saw a raft. The ship could pull me on that, Thomas puffed. The engines whistled and wished farewell to Thomas, and he peeped goodbye to them. Then, with a long, low hoot of his horn, the big steamboat set out to sea, pulling Thomas on the raft. Thomas was far out to sea. Oh my goodness gracious, when darkness started to fall. Suddenly he heard a creak and felt the raft lurch. Fizzling fireboxes, he peeped. The chain to the steamboat snapped. Oh no, he's not attached to the steamboat. Nobody heard Thomas whistle and peep for help as the steamboat chugged away. Waves rocked the raft. Mist gathered around him. Thomas was alone and very, very worried. How will I get home? Thomas wondered. The next morning, Thomas found himself on a strange island. Whoa. It was misty and quiet, and he didn't see any other engines. There must be a big dock and some ships, he said to himself. If I find them, I can sail back to Sodor. Thomas searched all over the island. He found many twisty tracks and thick, scratchy bushes. There was even a tunnel through an old fallen tree, but he didn't find a dock or anyone who could help him. Meanwhile, on Sodor, Sir Topham Hatt learned that Thomas was missing. Everyone stopped working on the search and rescue center and started looking for their lost friend. Sir Topham Hatt and Captain raced out to sea. The engines searched all over Sodor, and Harold took to the sky. Thomas was beginning to worry that he wouldn't find anyone to help him when he met 3 engines named Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand. They worked in an old logging camp. "We're the logging Locos," puffed Dash. "You're on Misty Island," huffed Bash. Then Thomas made an incredible discovery. "Bumpers and buffers! These are Joby logs. That's the wood we need to build the Sodor Search and Rescue Center." Thomas told the logging Locos about the rescue center, and they agreed to help him load the wood. But Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand, they liked playing games more than they liked loading logs, and they really loved bouncing on the wobbly, wibbly Shake Shack bridge. Thomas definitely did not enjoy bouncing on the bridge. Old Wheezy, the giant log loader, wasn't much help either. He wanted to throw wood instead of stacking it. Thomas thought the work would never get done, but after a day of biffing and bashing, the Joby wood was ready to go. "Now, how will I get these logs back to Sodor?" Thomas peeped. Luckily, Bash knew a way. Bash told Thomas about a dangerous old tunnel that connected Misty Island to Sodor. "I know all about tunnels," puffed Thomas. "It won't be dangerous." So pushing their flatbeds, the logging Locos followed Thomas into the dark and twisty tunnel. Suddenly, oh no, there was trouble. Boom, crash! Rocks tumbled down around the engines. The tracks were blocked. Thomas and the logging Locos were trapped. "I feel air on my funnel," said Ferdinand. Dash spotted a hole in the roof of the tunnel. "Huff your hardest," he said to Thomas. "Someone will see your steam." Thomas thought it was an excellent idea and excitedly started puffing. Back at Brendam Docks, Percy saw 3 puffs of steam in the sky. His firebox fizzed. "It's Thomas," Percy peeped to Whiff. "He's on Misty Island." Whiff knew about an old tunnel that led to Misty Island. "Follow me," he said. Percy and Whiff raced through the tunnel and found the cave-in. "Watch out, Thomas!" Whiff, huffed. "Percy and I are going to push through the rocks." With that, Percy and Whiff rocked and rolled and pumped their pistons. Then they crashed through the rocks. Thomas and the logging Locos were saved. Sir Topham Hatt was very happy that Thomas and his new friends were safe, and with all that new Joby wood, the rescue center would be finished in no time. Today is a special day, and it is made possible by very special engines, said Sir Topham Hatt, announcing at the opening of the Search and Rescue Center. All the engines peeped, and Thomas's pistons pumped with pride. The end. I had some tongue twisters there for a minute. I hope you enjoyed our Thomas story time, and maybe check out Thomas on TV. See you later. Bye.